Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about what does your congressman really believe? Now I want to ask you a question. Does your congressman believe what he tells you in his political speeches? Does he believe what his campaign says about him? Does he believe what he tells you? Does he believe the very television commercials that he airs? And even does he believe those flyers that you receive in the mail that are paid by your tax dollars and are considered official business, but really they are campaign ads? Does your congressman believe in the Constitution he has sworn to defend and uphold? This is a very important question. He has sworn to defend and uphold the Constitution, but if he does not believe in the Constitution and considers the Constitution a hindrance to his aspirations, his oath was a lie. I'm going to ask you a question. Who is your congressman? You can ask probably 95% of the people on the street, who is your congressman? And they'll give you a blank stare because they don't know who their congressman even is. And this is the guy that is representing them in Congress, dictating and proposing and voting for laws that you will have to obey, but you don't even know who your congressman is. That's pretty bad, isn't it? What does your congressman believe? Do you know what he has voted for and what he has sponsored? These are important questions, and you need to know the answers to those questions. Because every other November, you are asked to vote for a congressman. And if you know nothing about that congressman and you decide to pull the Democratic big lever or the Republican big lever, you are voting for a political party, not for a congressman. That is atrocious. That is bad. Because you should always know who you are voting for and what they actually stand for, what they actually believe, what they actually vote for, what they have voted for, what bills they are already signed on as sponsors of. And that means that they will vote for those bills that they are co-sponsoring. Now here is a map of Pennsylvania. I happen to live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this is a map of the Pennsylvania congressional districts as it stands right now in 2018. Now, I want you to go through and the PDF file that is referenced below this video, because I want you to be able to download that PDF file that covers every congressional district in the state of Pennsylvania and every congressman that is currently serving in that district. Now, in this video, I'm not going to go through and give you all 18 congressmen and what they believe in. You need to do your own research. You got to do your own looking. I made a nice PDF file that is actually a slideshow that will show you all 18 congressmen plus the 2 senators of Pennsylvania. But you need to download it yourself and read it for yourself to find out what your congressman believes in and what your congressman actually sponsors and what he doesn't sponsor. I am going to cover my own congressional district, which is the 13th Congressional District. Who is represented by Brendan F. Boyle, who happens to be a Democrat. Now, it appears that Congressman Boyle considers the Constitution of the United States to be a hindrance. He endorses wholeheartedly and supports the deep state. He voted yes on the reauthorization of the FISA Section 702. What is the FISA Section 702? That's the one that totally disregards the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. That is the amendment that Snowden is now living in Moscow, exposed, where there's storing every cell phone communication, every text message you make, everything you do online is stored in an NSA computer somewhere. Most likely Utah, which has its own, it's a computer so large that it has its own huge power plant to run. He has not yet sponsored the Securing America's Future Act of 2018. Now, I covered that act in the video called The Mark of the Beast. You might want to look at that video, The Mark of the Beast, to find out what that act really is, because it contains, in that 400-page document, a bill that will force you to carry around a national ID card that will have facial recognition, a GPS chip, and your DNA embedded in that card. This is the precursor to the Mark of the Beast. He has sponsored, though, a Medicare Common Access Card Act of 2017, which is a sort of like the federal ID card that is covered in Securing America's Future Act of 2018. I will not be voting for this guy come November. It's obvious. Now, yesterday, on February 14th, I received a flyer in the mail from Congressman Boyle, which was paid for by our tax dollars. It says it is official business. It's really a campaign ad, but that doesn't mean nothing to these congressmen that once they're in Congress, for they will spend your money rather than spending their own campaign funds for free advertising. And in this on this thing, This liar states, "I believe the president's economic policies hurt our families and our seniors. The White House tax bill delivers billions of dollars to the wealthiest 1% while raising taxes on middle-class families." That is a bold-faced lie. Our economy is at a turning point. That is true. It is at a turning point. Under Barack Obama, the economy was going down in the bucket. Under George Bush, the economy was going down in the bucket. Since Donald Trump has been elected, the economy has turned around. The economy for the investor class is booming. Do you have a 401k plan at your work? Do you have, are you invested in stocks or bonds? Or do you have mutual funds? You are an investor class. Majority of Americans, whether you're a union worker, even if you're working in a store, most have some sort of 401k plan. That puts you in the investor class. So he's against you. He's saying he's for middle class America, but he's against those that want to control their own finances. But the average American, especially young families and senior citizens, these can be hard times as CEOs pocket profits. Too many working people shift from one low-paying job to another. Well, let me ask you something. Even Walmart has given out bonuses to their people on the floor. And the Democratic Party seems to despise Walmart. But because of the tax cuts, even Walmart is giving out bonuses. So if you are getting a bonus at work and you're getting an increase in pay, that means more money in your pocket. And he goes on saying, adding insult to injury, deep tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans means less money to pay for programs of vital concern to us all. Education, Social Security, Medicare, the environment, and programs that help the poor will likely become targets for cuts. Now let me ask you something. Programs for the poor are designed, they keep people poor. Programs for education increase the cost of education. There are some colleges in America that refuse any federal grants, and they are cheaper to go to than the colleges that accept federal grants. That's interesting, isn't it? But the 18 congressional districts in Pennsylvania, it is important that you know your congressman. It is important that you know what he stands for. Because if he's trampling on the Bill of Rights, which happen to be the first 10 amendments of the Constitution of the United States, and he considers the Bill of Rights a hindrance to his aspirations, he is not in Congress to serve you. He is in Congress to serve himself. If you ever watched the Jimmy Stewart movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which was created in 1939, before World War II, it shows you how Congress and the Senate in 1930s was the same as it is today, with a bunch of guys in there. They get rich off of government fraud and corruption. Now I'm going to read you the Bill of Rights. I'm going to read you the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. They are not long. They are 1 or 2 sentences each. And there are some people out there that believe, oh, we got to protect the Second Amendment. We got to protect the First Amendment. We got to protect the Fourth Amendment. No, every amendment is of equal importance. There is not one that's better or less than the others. All 10 of these amendments, which are called the Bill of Rights, each of them are important in their own right. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. That's only one sentence. And look what that First Amendment covers. Your freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom to assemble and to hold marches and protest against the government. And it even gives you the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. Do you understand that? Do you understand how important that First Amendment is and what it all covers? The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of a people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There are many in Congress today that do not want a well-armed citizenry. They'd rather have you unarmed and unprotected. Now, when you read the Federalist Papers that cover the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment was instituted in there for the citizens to protect themselves against the government. That is important. A well-armed citizenry, the government, if they have to fight house to house against a well-armed citizenry, they are in danger of losing. The Third Amendment. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war but in the manner to be prescribed by law. The right of the people, the Fourth Amendment reads, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. Now, the NSA collecting all your cell phone data, all your conversations, everybody you connect to, all the metadata, which is who you contact with, who you call, who you text, and stuff like this. All that goes strictly against the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. That is why Edward Snowden is now residing in Moscow and is a fugitive of the United States government. The Fifth Amendment reads, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on the presentment of or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, there are a lot of places in this country, like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for instance, where they have asset forfeiture laws on the books right now that can just take your house from you, and you're not even charged for a crime. These people in the government are wicked people. Evil, malicious, wicked devil worshippers that want to seize your property and consider the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States a hindrance to their aspirations. Now, this is an important, the Sixth Amendment is a very important thing as it confers to the FISA court. Because in the FISA court, which I talked about already, is a court that everything is in secret. You cannot have a lawyer represent you in a FISA court. A FISA court is not open, and there is no grand jury present. There is no jury at all in a FISA court, just a judge. A judge appointed by somebody. That is true wickedness. The Sixth Amendment reads, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. The FISA court is not public. By an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. which districts shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause and accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witness in his favor, and to have the assistance of a counsel for his defense. The FISA court goes totally against the Sixth Amendment. When you read the Constitution and you read it for yourself, and you find out what it says for yourself, you will discover that your politicians in Washington are fighting against the Constitution of the United States. The Seventh Amendment. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. The Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required for excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And the final and 10th Amendment of the Constitution, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Now, your congressmen and senators have been trampling on the Bill of Rights since President Woodrow Wilson in the early 1900s. President Wilson had reporters arrested who spoke and wrote out against his policies. Ever since then, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution of the United States have been considered a hindrance by our representatives. There are many groups that focus on just one or two of the amendments of the Constitution. I consider all the amendments as equally important. For instance, the FISA court and all portions of the FISA law are contrary to not only the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, but also the Fifth and Sixth Amendments of the Constitution. This is why I focus on FISA 702 and the Securing of America's Future Act of 2018. Both of these trample on your rights as American citizens. Now, every November, as Americans, we should go to the polls to vote. A huge majority of Americans don't go to the polls at all. And they wonder why the government does the stuff that they do and why their rights get trampled on. For instance, the Patriot Act that was inaugurated under George Bush after 9/11, right, in 2001. Changed the aspect of flying in a nice airplane to a torture chamber whenever you go to the airport. And you have to be frisked and everything else to get on an airplane today. That should not be. But if you desire to live under a fascist regime, stay ignorant and stupid and do not pay attention to what your member of Congress is doing. The Germans prior to World War II were not paying attention to their government, and they ended up with Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Socialist Party as their ruler. The same will happen to you if you do not wake up and start to pay attention to what your government is doing. Your time is running out. When was the last time you voted? Do you want a federal ID card that has your biometric data along with a GPS chip embedded in it? And you will be a felon if you leave your card at home? This is what some of your members of Congress are proposing. Now I'm going to tell you. Do not trust what you see on television. Do not trust what you see on the internet. Do not trust what you read in the newspaper. We have a marvelous tool today called the internet. You can search for almost any bill that's in Congress and read the text of that bill going through Congress today. You have a marvelous tool that we did not have when I was growing up, and in the 70s, the 80s. It didn't come into action until really in the late 90s, when Congress started putting all of the bills on the internet that you can read for yourself. Actually, the only bill that was not put on the internet before it was voted on was like Obamacare. For the authors of the bill did not want an informed citizenry to know what was in that bill. But the FISA 702, even that bill was on the congressional website. So it's up to you to find out what your congressman votes for and whether it is infringing upon your rights. For if you do not believe in the freedom of speech, it will be taken away from you. If you do not believe in the freedom of the press, it will be taken away from you. The right to bear arms will be taken away from you. They are working diligently hard to take away these rights from you. They already are scouring everything you do. All your communications are stored. In a computer, in a searchable database that can be found. They are watching you. I just saw an article the other day about them being able, if you have a smart TV, that smart TV the whole screen is a camera watching you while you are watching the TV. And the only way to turn it off is to unplug the thing. This is serious stuff. If you have a laptop, the CIA can turn on that camera anytime it wants to. If you never watched the movie Snowden, go out, buy the Blu-ray disc, and watch it for yourself. It is important. Thank you very much for watching this video.